Hi class, it's Mrs. Cook. I had so much fun seeing you on Friday and hearing about all of your sharing. You all did such a wonderful job with that, thinking of things for the letter U. That's a tough one. So great job. And I am excited today to start talking about Easter. I know Mrs. Kornberg is going to have a bunch of wonderful Easter crafts for you to get busy with this week. So I thought I would share a story, Tales of Peter Rabbit, with you today. And then also wanted to announce that on Friday, I would love to do some baking with you. So I've let your parents know that we're going to be making chocolate chip cookies together, and hopefully you'll be able to get the ingredients together and we can bake together and talk about measuring and the ingredients, and then we get to eat our yummy cookies when we're all finished. So I look forward to that. In the meantime, oh, I have Snickers here. She likes to come for our story time. Say, hey, Snickers. All right, so we're going to get started with our story today. I hope you're enjoying this beautiful weekend, and maybe you're out with your families riding your bike or taking a walk and just spending some time together. So anyway, get comfortable. Maybe you want to get a snack and a blanket and get cozy. So here we go. This is a really big book, so I'm going to go ahead and read like I've been doing, and then I'll hold up the pictures so that you can see them when I'm finished. All right, this one is called The Tale of Benjamin Bunny. One morning, a little rabbit sat on a bank. He pricked his ears and listened to the trit-trot of a pony. A gig was coming along the road. It was driven by Mr. McGregor, and beside him sat Mrs. McGregor in her best bonnet. As soon as they had passed, little Benjamin Bunny slid down into the road and set off, with a hop, skip, and a jump, to call upon his relations who lived in the wood at the back of Mr. McGregor's garden. That wood was full of rabbit holes, and in the neatest, sandiest hole of all lived Benjamin's aunt and his cousins, Flopsy, Mopsy, Cottontail, and Peter. Old Mrs. Rabbit was a widow. She earned her living by knitting rabbit wool mittens and muffets. I bought a pair at a bazaar. She also sold herbs and rosemary tea and rabbit tobacco, which is what we call lavender. Little Benjamin did not very much want to see his aunt. He came round the back of the fir tree and nearly tumbled upon the top of his cousin Peter. Peter was sitting by himself. He looked poorly and was dressed in a red cotton pocket handkerchief. Peter, said little Benjamin in a whisper, "Who has got your clothes?" Peter replied, "The scarecrow in Mr. McGregor's garden," and described how he had been chased about the garden and had dropped his shoes and coat. Little Benjamin sat beside his cousin and assured him that Mr. McGregor had gone out in a gig, and Mrs. McGregor also, and certainly for the day because she was wearing her best bonnet. Peter said he hoped that it would rain. At this point, old Mrs. Rabbit's voice was heard inside the rabbit hole calling, "Cottontail, Cottontail, fetch some more chamomile." Peter said, actually, let me let you look at this picture really quick. There he is. He's all in his red handkerchief because his clothes are on the scarecrow. Peter said that he might feel better if he went for a walk. They went away hand in hand and got upon the flat top of the wall at the bottom of the wood. From here, they looked down into Mr. McGregor's garden. Peter's coat and shoes were plainly to be seen upon the scarecrow, topped with an old tam-o'-shanter of Mr. McGregor's. Little Benjamin said, "It spoils people's clothes to squeeze under a gate. The proper way to get in is to climb down a pear tree." Peter fell down head first, but it was of no consequence, as the bed below was newly raked and quite soft. It had been sown with lettuces. They left a great many old little footprints. all over the bed, especially little Benjamin, who was wearing clogs. Look at him, he's upside down. How silly is that? He wanted to come down the pear tree. Little Benjamin said that the first thing to be done was to get back Peter's clothes in order that they might be able to use the pocket handkerchief. They took them off the scarecrow. There had been rain during the night, there was water in the shoes, and the coat was somewhat shrunk, meaning it had gotten smaller. Benjamin tried on the tam-o'-shanter, but it was too big for him. Then he suggested that they should fill the pocket handkerchief with onions as a little present for his aunt. Peter did not seem to be enjoying himself. He kept hearing noises. Benjamin, on the contrary, was perfectly at home and ate a lettuce leaf. He said that he was in a habit of coming to the garden with his father to get lettuces for their Sunday dinner. The name of little Benjamin's papa was Old Mr. Benjamin Bunny. The lettuces certainly were very fine. Peter did not eat anything. He said he should like to go home. Presently, he dropped half the onions. Little Benjamin said that it was not possible to get back up the pear tree with the load of vegetables. He led the way boldly towards the other end of the garden. They went along a little walk on planks, under a sunny red brick wall. The mice sat on their doorsteps cracking cherry stones. They winked at Peter Rabbit and little Benjamin Bunny. Presently, Peter let the pocket handkerchief go again. They got amongst flower pots and frames and tubs. Peter heard noises worse than ever. His eyes were as big as lollipops. He's worried that Mr. McGregor's going to come back. He was a step or two in front of his cousin when he suddenly stopped. This is what those little rabbits saw around that corner. Little Benjamin took one look, and then, in half a minute, less than no time, he hid himself and Peter and the onions underneath a large basket. The cat got up and stretched herself and came and sniffed at the basket. Perhaps she liked the smell of onions. Anyway, she sat down upon the top of the basket. Oh my goodness. I'm going to show you this picture of this cat sitting on top of the basket. Oh my goodness, the bunnies must be so nervous. She sat there for 5 hours. I cannot draw you a picture of Peter and Benjamin underneath the basket because it was so dark and because the smell of onions was fearful. It made Peter Rabbit and little Benjamin cry. The sun got round behind the wood and it was quite late in the afternoon, but still the cat sat upon the basket. At length there was a pitter-patter, and some bits of mortar fell from the wall above. The cat looked up and saw old Mr. Benjamin Bunny prancing along the top of the wall of the upper terrace. He was looking for his son. Old Mr. Bunny had no opinion whatever of cats. He took a tremendous jump off the top of the wall onto the top of the cat and cuffed it off the basket and kicked it into the greenhouse, scratching off a handful of fur. The cat was too much surprised to scratch back. When old Mr. Bunny had driven the cat into the greenhouse, he locked the door. Oh my gosh, I'm going to show you this picture of this cat again one more time. That cat was so surprised by old Mr. Benjamin Bunny that he didn't even know what to do. Then he came back to the basket and took out his son Benjamin by the ears. Then he took out his nephew Peter. Then he took out the handkerchief of onions and marched out of the garden. When Mr. McGregor returned about half an hour later, he observed several things which perplexed him. It looked as though some person had been walking all over the garden in a pair of clogs. Only the footmarks were too ridiculously little. He could not understand how the cat could have managed to shut herself up inside the greenhouse, locking the door upon the outside. When Peter got home, his mother forgave him because she was so glad to see that he had found his shoes and coat. Cottontail and Peter folded up the pocket handkerchief, and old Mrs. Rabbit strung up the onions and hung them from the kitchen ceiling with the bunches of herbs. The end. So, it sounds like Benjamin and Peter got into some mischief in Mr. McGregor's garden, and they were trying to get the clothes back off the scarecrow. And they got themselves in a little bit of a pickle there, trapped under that basket that the cat sat on for 5 hours. Well, Benjamin's father, old Benjamin Bunny, came and rescued the day, but he wasn't too happy with them for causing mischief. So I think they'll think better next time before they go into Mr. McGregor's garden. All right, friends, well, I hope you enjoyed our story today, and we continue to miss you so much. It was so wonderful to see you, and I look forward to Friday. Get your aprons and your ingredients ready, and I will see you then. Bye.